Thank you for being here. I am so excited to see people in the audience because, well, quite frankly, this is important. We're going to start by opening up the meeting. I'm going to hit the gavel because I think I legally have to do that. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? We've got our roll call. Liz, when you're ready, could you take the roll call?
Yes. Councilperson Alvarez.
Here.
Councilperson Weinbach.
Here.
Councilperson Hurst. Councilperson Parnell.
Here.
Councilperson Gresham.
It's Councilwoman Vasquez now? But here.
Oh, sorry about that. Councilperson Ambler.
Here.
Councilperson Zilli.
Here.
We have the approval of the minutes. Do we need to table that?
We don't have the minutes for the last meeting since it's only been a week.
Very understandable. We need a motion to table that, or can we just skip that over?
We just
Thank
skip
you
it
so
over.
much. Similarly, when it comes to communications from the mayor, it's been a great week, but just, continuing on. Clerk Treasurer?
Well, the report's going to be given in a few minutes.
That's perfect. Standing committees, I imagine we are still pretty fresh. When it comes to the city officials, I've asked for them to, stay home. Barb is here. Thank you for being here, Barb. In the event that we need to call you up, we certainly will. Thank you for being here as a citizen, though. I appreciate it. I don't believe there's any unfinished business that we can get to. So moving on to our new business, ordinance number 23-16, 2024 budget amendment. Victoria, would you mind reading the proposed ordinance? I apologize. I said ordinance. It's a, I don't know, term. Sorry.
It is.
Are we doing the resolution first or the ordinance first?
You know,
I think we have to do the resolution first,
the
right?
resolution's not on the agenda, so I was going to put it under new business, but we can do the resolution first.
Let's go ahead and we'll do the resolution first. That's resolution 24-01. Victoria, if you're ready.
Resolution 24-01, a resolution rescinding ordinance number 23-16, adopting the 2024 budget for the city of Portage pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-16L. It is hereby ordained, resolved, and established by the Common Council of the City of Portage, Indiana, that ordinance number 23-16, adopted by the Common Council on October 24th, 2023, in which the 2024 budget was approved, is hereby rescinded pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-16L, passed and adopted by the Common Council of the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana, this 12th day of January 2024.
Thank you, Victoria.
Motion to adopt. Second.
I make a motion to suspend the rules.
It's resolutions don't need suspension, right, Ed?
Got it. But thank you, because we do want to make sure this passes through. So thank you. So we have a Motion, and we have a second. Do we have discussion? Liz, did you want to say?
I
Yeah.
guess I'll discuss this right now. Okay, the reason we're having this emergency meeting, I might as well address why we're having the meeting, is just to secure close to $1.8 million in additional tax revenue for 2024. On January 2nd, we received our 1782 notice from the DLGF. We had until January 12th to respond to the 1782. I contacted Cronin Associates to discuss the 1782 notice. On January 8th, while reviewing the 1782 notice with the Cronin Associates, they discovered that we could ask for an additional tax levy for next year of the $1.8 million. After further investigation, they told me that we could do it for 2025. We probably wouldn't be able to do it for 2024. After further investigation, they contacted me on January 9th and told me that we could possibly get this tax revenue for this year. There was steps we needed to take immediately to apply for the additional levy. One of the steps was to rescind the 2024 budget and adopt a new one to reflect the $1.8 million tax levy. The budget will not be affected by this revision. And I have Steve Carter here to talk about it, but he'll get up after we get to that ordinance.
Thank you, Liz. Any further discussion? And if not, we already have the motion and the second, so I think we are prepared to vote without further discussion. Go ahead if you can call the roll.
Councilperson Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilperson Weidenbach.
Yes.
Councilperson Gina Hurst, I'm sorry. She's not here. Councilperson Parnell.
Yes.
Councilperson Vasquez.
Here, yes.
Councilperson Ambler.
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli.
Yes.
And that passes. Thank you all. And so now we go to the ordinance. Is that correct? Thank you. So ordinance number 23-16, 2024 budget amendment. Ferdinand, would you be willing to take that one up? Or
Be it ordained and resolved by Be it ordained and resolved by the Common Council that for the expenses of Portage Civil City for the year ending December 31st, 2024, the sums herein specified are hereby appropriated and ordered set apart out of the several funds herein named and for the purposes herein specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Such sums herein appropriated shall be held to include all expenditures authorized to be made during the year unless otherwise expressly stipulated and provided for by law. In addition, for the purposes of raising revenue to meet the necessary expenses of Portage Civil City, the property tax levies and the property tax rates as herein specified are included herein. Budget Form 4B for all funds must be completed and submitted in the manner prescribed by the Department of Local Government Finance. This ordinance resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval by the Common Council. Are we reading this entire thing? An adopted budget levy, max amount $55,749,125. Adopted tax levy maximum $23,659,648,000 with an adopted tax rate of 1.1230%. Let the record show that it has been read in its entirety.
thank you, Ferdinand. It looks like we might have a thing that Liz might want to say after checking something. We're all good? Thank you, Ferdinand, no matter what, thank you. We were ready to have you read the whole thing again, but I think that I'm good.
I'm just double checking, making sure that the amounts are correct.
So we have now, it was referenced earlier with the suspension of the rules. Is that something that, needs to be considered for this one?
Yes. In
Or to-
conjunction with the passage of an ordinance, if you want in one and only one reading before adoption, you should suspend the rules.
Do we have a motion for that?
I motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion, or do we usually vote on that first and then? Got it. If you could go ahead, Liz, and call roll.
Councilperson Alvarez,
Yes?
Councilperson Weidenbach,
Yes.
Councilperson Hurst, Councilperson Parnell,
Yes.
Councilperson Vasquez,
Yes.
Councilperson Ambler,
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli.
Yes. Motion to adopt.
We have a motion to adopt. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Steve, you want to compare and explain it? I'm sorry, Mr. Carter?
Good evening, everyone. I just, before I start, just a clarification. What was the ordinance number that it was titled?
What we've got on here says ordinance number 23-16, and then there's a comma,
I think it's
2000
actually
for budget.
24-02.
Yeah, it should be 2024-02 or
The agenda
24-02.
just has the old number, but the one Ferdinand read was 24-02.
And Ed, I
for
imagine
the
we're still
record, I think we
okay
should
as
get
far
that
as
in
what's
there.
been proposed?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Glad to be here. Thank you all for coming out. I think, unless there are any questions, I'll just kind of recap very quickly here. The additional property tax levy that we're asking for is for the general fund only, and that is in the amount of $1,782,587. And you should all have just kind of a short summary here, sheet that looks like this that I'm looking at. The only other really important thing of note here is that the budget is unchanged. This doesn't affect anybody's budgets, none of the departments, anything like that. Doesn't affect your ability to spend. The purpose of this is to simply generate additional dollars that you are entitled to collect under your maximum levy, and with the hope that at the end of the year next year, we're in a better position and maybe don't have to borrow as much in the form of a tax anticipation warrant. As it's set right now, you are scheduled to receive $5,065,000 and change on January 25th as a bridge loan, effectively to cover your operations until you get your June distribution. So our goal in working with the administration is going to be to get that number down over the next several years so that you don't have to go through that process of doing short-term borrowing just to make your payroll and do your day-to-day things. So that's the impetus for doing this. That's the reason we felt it was important to bring it to you tonight. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
So Steve, just a clarification. So I know I met with the mayor and the clerk treasurer and spoke with you and Buzz, but just to be clear for everyone, this was just a miscalculation of the levy when we did the budget in 2023 for this year.
Yeah,
It
I'm not-
included debt service.
Yeah, I'm not
correct?
sure why it was short. The ordinance that you have in front of you doesn't change that debt service. I spoke at length with Wayne Hudson at the DLGF, and he said that's on his end. He has to do that on his end. The council can't really take any action on it. So the budget, or the number you see in here for debt service 3 is the same as it was before. When you do get your final budget order, that number is going to be double. And the reason is that will allow you to make your January of 2025 debt service payment, which is not currently in the budget that was adopted. So that is an additional thing that is happening. It is not an action that you need to take
So-
under action tonight.
Basically, we budgeted correctly for the debt service payments. We just miscalculated the levy, which would have resulted us bringing in less money than we were supposed to bring in.
The budget is also short, so there will need to
Yeah.
be an additional appropriation at some point during the year to make that, but that's something we can address, as we
Right, but
get-
what I'm getting at, this isn't a tax increase. This is just us doing the budget the correct way to get the maximum amount that we're allowed to
Yeah,
get.
actually, your budget, your tax rate is going down from 2023, even with this action. It's going down about 3 cents.
I think that, if you could correct me, because I know we discussed a little, and in terms of explaining it to the department heads, I made sure that people were aware, we're not adding money to the budget, as in we're going to be getting more money coming to the departments. I kind of described it, I think, as if you think of it as a net. If you're out on a boat and you're casting a net, we're casting a wider net in terms of trying to potentially capture a little more. I'm more hopeful that we will, but this is about making sure that we have that higher amount. Is that correct?
Right, your ability to collect revenues is not completely independent from your ability to spend, but they are two separate actions. So we are not affecting your ability to spend. It's still going to be the same amount for next year as what was previously adopted. So nobody's budget is changing. It's not going up. It's not going down. We're simply collecting more revenue. So at the end of the year, next year, let's say that we were anticipating roughly 2 million as your cash balance in the general fund at the end of next year. If we get the revenues that we think we're going to get, the miscellaneous revenues that were originally budgeted, we're hopeful that that's going to be 3.7 to 4 million. That's really the change.
Thank you. Are there other questions from members of the council? I appreciate you all being here, of course, with it being the weather as it is. Thank you so much.
So point of information, by doing this now, come next year, as you said, we'll probably see an increase in our revenue. Will we also see a fluctuation in the tax levy rate as well, that we'd be addressing this again, or does this correct it moving forward?
So our goal, or our typical approach is that we advise cities and towns to maintain a more level tax rate. And by doing this, it is making it a more level tax rate. Whereas before, it would have did one of these next year, and then we'd be going right back up in 2025. So this keeps it more level across the board in years going forward.
Thank you.
Councilman or Councilperson Ambler, did you have some questions you said you wanted answered?
I did. I was looking at the two sheets that you gave, the home rule fund. Thanks. I was looking at the two sheets that you gave us, the home ruled funds versus the other page, which just says funds. And I noticed that there were things listed twice, like the wheel excise tax was listed and the wheel tax. What's the difference there?
That might be a question we could probably answer from our own end, because there are, even though we colloquially use the term wheel tax to describe both, those are actually two different things. Yes. So we,
There are two different fees that you pay. You pay both a wheel tax and the excise tax. They just come in as two different distributions. So we get two different distributions from the state.
the average person just refers to wheel tax to mean both, but yeah, in the state law, they are two different things.
Thank you so much for answering that. I imagine my other question is probably similar. There's a motor vehicle highway restricted and one that's not restricted. So I was just curious about what that difference was.
Again, that's the same thing. One's restricted fund and one's an unrestricted fund from MVH.
Which I'll just add on, we've been dealing with this problem, Penny, over the last few years. So we used to have it all in one fund. The state changed the law, I think in 2018, sounds right to me, to where you had to start splitting it 50-50. But the restrictions are very hard to use on just general operating. So we've run into an issue where we can't use our restricted funds for like general operating at the street department, for example. The state's been talking about changing that formula, possibly upping it to 70-30, so less is restricted. But it's just the same pot of money from our state gas tax and that type of stuff, but we have a 50-50 restriction set by the state.
Thank you so much.
Steve, thank you again for coming here. Are there any other questions from the board? And again, I just want to make sure, given what we're doing, you guys have the ability to have it answered. And I appreciate everyone who took the time to research this ahead of this meeting. And I appreciate everybody who, I know that this came very quickly. And it should be noted, I think, Steve, that this is the last day we have to be able to take action on this. Is this correct?
Yes, it is.
So we got it in the nick of time, and there are some people to thank to make sure that we got that happening. But I'll acknowledge them later, towards the end of the meeting. That said, any other questions? And if not, are we in a spot where we can do the vote if somebody is inclined to make a motion? Who, this was the discussion, so yeah, we do have the motion in the second. So then I guess we're ready to take the roll call.
Councilperson Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilperson Weinbach.
Yes.
Councilperson Hurst. Councilperson Parnell.
Yes.
Councilperson Vasquez,
Yes.
Councilperson Ambler,
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli.
Yes.
And it passed. Thank you again, and thank you, Steve. So I don't believe we have any introductions of new ordinances. Do we have petitions, remonstrances, or public input? No problem. Any other matters that anybody would like to bring up?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Anybody want to second that?
I will second it.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you all.